Okie dokie.
Where are you? Got
The
it.
eternal question.
All right, we're good to go, my friend.
All right. Good morning, wherever you are in the universe and whatever time this is that you're watching this meeting. This is the Open Space and Recreation Plan Ad Hoc Committee for the Town of Yarmouth, Friday, January 13th, 2023 at 9 a.m. And before we start, this is to formally advise that as required by MGL Chapter 30A 18 to 25 and pursuant to Chapter 22 of the Acts of 22 and an act relative to extending certain state of emergency accommodations signed into law on July 16, 2022, the OSRP Ad Hoc Committee will hold a public meeting at the date and time noted on the notice of meeting. Public is welcome to attend either in person or via alternative public access provided on the notice of meeting available on the Town of Yarmouth website. So we're now formally in action. And I'd like to just start with attendance. And because Kathy is smarter than I know how to do it. I'm just going to say your name. Please tell us if you're here. Steve Szanski.
Present.
Christine Marzigliano.
Here.
Gail Charette.
Here.
Ellie Lawrence.
Here.
Kathy Williams.
I'm here.
All right. Brittany Dorenzo.
Here.
Amanda Lima. Amy Howell.
Here.
Bill Benetti. Will Rubenstein here. And then just for the record, if some other nice people that are here from Weston and Sampson, could you please identify yourselves?
Cassie Bethany, Weston.
We can't hear you.
Oh, try that one more time, Cassie.
Cassie Bethany,
Very good.
can you hear me?
Yep.
Okay.
And Lauren Shunk with Weston and Sampson. Nice to meet everyone.
Okay, thanks. Are there any other people who are not guests but are actually here to contribute in a formal way? No? Okay.
That's everybody.
All righty. So I'm just going to go right through the agenda, Kathy, unless you have a reason to do it differently.
Nope.
Okay, the first topic on our agenda is the Open Space and Rec Plan update. Take it away, smart people.
So I'm hoping Cassie and Lauren have worked up the draft survey with the edits based on some of the comments from the last meeting, as well as some additional comments that we received, and it's included in your packet. I don't know if maybe Cassie or Lauren can pull it up and you can kind of quickly go through it, and if anybody has any specific comments they want to make, maybe some additions, or whether this is what we're looking for, because we really need to finalize the survey today so that we can launch it next week.
I just had one suggestion on the very first page, part 1, the title. It says, tell us about Yarmouth's parks. I would suggest that we say parks and open space. Conservation land is not a park.
Good point.
Part 1, right. Right off
So the
bat.
first question, so important.
Just in the title, correct?
Yes.
I also have 1,000 edits. I didn't respond that way because I had too many.
Okay.
We'll see.
You want to go through page by page?
Just- Maybe if Steve has the most, does anybody else have simpler edits? And then we can kind of circle back. Does that make sense, Will?
With this, I just looked at all the writing and everything else.
I think your comments have been incorporated. I'm not sure, Gail, whether your comments got incorporated as much as, okay.
Yes.
Yeah, we'll come to Steve in a second. I forgot to look at 33 just to see if they changed the format, because I mean, if that makes sense, what I was saying.
Yeah, it's just asking what your particular age is, not everyone in your family.
Okay.
That's right.
I mean, I found the question valuable about the family composition. It was just because there were radio buttons, you could only pick one person. But yeah, that makes sense. Knowing the age of the actual respondent is way more important. Other than that, I think they were the deleted ones that I think we already discussed, Kathy. So I'm good. Anyone else before we get to Steve?
Question 5 lists Mill Creek boat launching. Is that Mill Creek in West Yarmouth or is it Mill Creek
Yes.
up in Yarmouthport? I don't know that there's boat launching at Mill Creek.
I had a question about that with Bill Benetti. I don't know whether that's just for harbor masters or whether that's for anybody who can do the launch on that.
I'm trying to figure out where it is.
It's just an overlook
Yeah,
boardwalk.
it's just an overlook.
No, I think it's in a different location than that. I mean, I can double check with Bill. He's on vacation. That's the only problem.
I think we just checked that.
Yeah, I'll check that. I had a question on that too, but.
Okay. This,
Is it worth adding an address for that particular one since there's confusion around it?
I think we need to find out where it is ourselves because I
Where is
don't.
that?
So I'll send an email to Dave and Bill over at DNR and see if they can't provide some more information on that. And I'll get back to you on that, Cassie.
Yeah, I don't recall a boat ramp of any sort.
I thought it was
Dave
just for
doesn't-
their, something to relate it to emergency access for them. So,
Well, there is off of the, not Colonial Acres. Is it Colonial Acres? Yeah,
within
there
the-
is off of Colonial Acres, but that's, that's where they launched the floats for the docks and everything.
I'll double check with DNR and we'll get back to you.
Is that it's just all dirt and it's gated off.
So I'll find out about use in the location. And if it's open to the public.
See, there's a Mill Creek up in Yarmouthport.
Yeah,
That might be the boat, on the end of Water Street, you can launch boats from
floats
there.
there.
Yes, I do know what you're talking
So
about.
maybe it should be identified as Yarmouthport.
Well, I think we need to find out what it is.
Yeah.
Yeah, and the
That's what I was
location.
just looking up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay,
Okay.
ready to dive into Steve? Come on, let's do it.
Okay, on 4, 5, and 6, the questions, my gut instinct is to answer never, even though I don't know about it. When I'm coming across, I filled this out, and my instinct is to hit never. But I think on quite a few of them, I need a double whammy there. Because I don't know whether to put.
If you don't know about it, you never
go. Let's
visit.
say Blood Carter Reservation, I never go there, but I don't know about it.
So you'd only.
So-
fill
So
out
you'd
a-
hit, I don't know about it.
Everybody's clear about that?
If you don't know about it, you're obviously not visiting it because you don't know where to go. I guess would be my thinking.
But if
Yeah,
I'm Joe Schmo answering this thing, my instinct is when you got frequently, occasionally, and never, I'm gonna hit never.
I respectfully disagree, but I hear where you're coming from.
Yeah, okay.
Because I know about a lot of them, but I've never been to the Fred Thatcher playground because I don't have small children.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's the
know
way
about it.
that's the way I was
Alright.
looking at it, like the Marguerite Small Elementary School.
No,
Why would I be going there if I don't have a kid?
Right.
I'm a newbie and I filled this out for the first time. And I was able to, differentiate between never and just don't know about it, so.
Okay.
But everybody else does, but I really, have to read it, but.
I could
Right.
definitely differentiate, it's just that I was confused as to which
No,
one
I
I
mean, like,
would
I
be
thought
the
in
more
my
correct
mind-
answer.
Yeah, I thought in my mind you only wanted one, that's what I meant. You know what I mean?
Yes,
Yes,
yes.
it is definitely.
I mean, that, yeah.
Question number 6, the field across from Town Hall's not listed. Simpkins Field, if you want to call it that, right?
Can you repeat the comment? I have a hard
Well,
time,
you should
having a little hard time hearing.
She's having a little hard time hearing what you're saying. There's a bunch of fields. I mean, there's a baseball field across the street at Simpkins Fields.
They do lacrosse and soccer there too.
We do rent it out,
Yeah,
so, or reserve it.
yeah.
whatever you wanna call it.
So would it be,
We always call it Simpkins Field.
Yeah, we're
Yeah.
like Sears,
Yeah,
Yeah, Sears Simpkins.
technically it's
that's
Sears.
what I thought, yeah,
Yeah,
not that people will
Know what it is.
know what that is, I think I would put Sears / Simpkins,
Yeah.
so.
Yeah.
People are very clear what it is.
I call it the place I go to the Seaside Festival.
yeah.
yeah.
So I think there are a lot of people that know it just for that. But
Yeah.
I hear what
I
you're
know it
coming
is a helicopter pad, but
So that would be on Sixth in South Yarmouth.
Number 8. The checkoffs don't really apply to me. I like early evening between 3 to 7. I hate to be fussy about it, but if I'm gonna go to any of those places, I don't go at any of those times you got listed. So I would suggest maybe another button for saying early evening. I don't know how important that is, but that's me.
What does everyone think? Do we need to edit that or?
And the only maybe would have value if you stopped it at 3, so like
Yeah.
before school, after school,
Yeah, like during school hours, almost, so like a 9 to 3 type
Yeah.
thing.
maybe.
Well, every other one is 3 hours, except
So
for
we
the
could-
afternoon, which is 5.
So we could.
So you could do 12 to 3, 3 to.
But I think they're
6?
very distinct times, 6 to 9,
And
you're
6 to
getting
9.
like the, then like 9 to 3, which is really like work and school hours, and then the
Yeah.
evening, like you're saying, 3 to.
I said 3 to
Not
7.
I
That's-
believe this one is set up where you can select more than one. So if you go 3 to 6, could you theoretically select afternoon and evening if it's crossing over 2 time periods?
Either that or just add another option of early
Yeah.
evening
Yeah.
or, you know, I don't know what you want to call it,
Because
but 3 to
otherwise-
6 and then 6 to 9. And then it's the 3-hour chunks like you were saying,
Yeah, I
Ellie.
think it's good.
Yeah.
Consistent. at least.
Because at 6, if 5, 4, 5, and 6. If we say just check 1, which we don't, we'll have to say check 1, check 2 on all of them. If they mean we want one answer or we want as many answers as
Yeah.
you can give us.
Check all that line.
Yeah.
Yeah, do we need to do anything like that? Like identify, Cassie, you know, whether something is like pick all that apply and state for people so they know that they can pick more than one? Or check, I mean, and the next question, number 9, you say check all that apply. So do we need that on number 8, if that's the
Yeah.
case?
We should add that.
That would. Okay. But also change the times.
Yes, I think so.
Yeah.
Everyone think that makes sense?
Yeah.
3 to 6 and then add 6 to 9. Did you get that, Cassie?
Yeah.
Awesome. I have too many. I can't see half the time. Old age is catching up to me.
Well, why do you think I have these? And I have to hide them in this little thing because I hate carrying them around.
All right, Steve, keep
Okay,
going.
hate to be a fuss budget, but 11 and 12 got huge problem with it. It's too long. There's too many things. It's like I got bored going halfway down the list and I wanted to stop. I mean, there's stuff on there like relaxing. I mean, come on. And then there's a thing on there climbing. Well, we got nothing to climb around here or anywhere on the Cape for that matter. I mean, there's just too many things. But also when you have to repeat it after going through 11 and then making your way to 12 and doing the exact same thing again. To me, it seems like if you could get 11 and 12 combined with a second column that you would say, these are the activities I use in Yarmouth. These are the ones I have to travel out of Yarmouth to use, out of town to use.
It could be paramount.
Yeah.
You know.
But I
So
think
if-
that in that sense, if you're gonna, you would keep climbing, because that would be an activity I would travel outside.
You could keep it, yes,
Yeah.
but I'm just saying instead of having 2 pages or actually almost 3 pages of,
Yeah, that makes sense.
Can you do that in Survey Monkey, Cassie? I mean, you're asking 2 separate questions in one
I
question,
guess it could be like this.
or would it be, oh, I see what you're
Well,
saying.
Yeah, well, it
Just
says
needs
what are
more
the
text at the top.
activities in Yarmouth? We don't have a BMX track.
No,
No.
So you would have to travel out for a
Right.
BMX track. So why even have it in question
right.
11?
I think originally question 11 was just the stuff that we did have, and then we tried to add extra stuff in 12, but I think they ended up getting to be the same. Is there some other way of doing that you can think of, Kathy, where we don't have to have the 2 long lists together? We can somehow combine it?
just one list with 2
Do
choices.
something Like
Yeah.
this kind of.
Exactly, yeah. So you have it listed and say,
I'm not sure what the limitations are on how to organize questions in columns versus the list.
I think you would just have baseball and then the top
Yeah.
would be,
Top 5 activity or
or
still
go out of
travel
town.
outside.
So you'd have two options, like, just like when we were
Oh,
looking
the
at
two
frequently,
columns,
occasionally,
in
never.
town,
Yeah.
out of town. Yeah,
Yeah.
okay,
Yep.
I like that.
Top 5 in town.
We completely
Yeah, and-
agree that we're concerned that the survey is much too long in general.
Yeah.
Hence our request to delete out some redundancies via email. So
Yep.
if there are places where we feel like we can tighten it up, we would encourage that.
So number 11 and 12 would end up getting combined and all the list would be the same, but then you'd have a column top 5 in town and what you travel out of town to go to.
Yes.
And then if you don't do it, you wouldn't click it at all. You wouldn't just
Yeah.
leave it alone. I think that makes sense. Does that make sense?
That's me.
And then you can keep all the options in that you have. You don't have to get rid of anything because somebody might travel out of town to go climbing.
Yeah, the only caveat we'll just have to check, and we can talk with you about this after, Kathy, is if we can have write-in boxes for in town, out of town, or if we're just limited to checking the box. And if we might need a third column that says, don't do any of these or something like that.
Do we really need to know the top 5? I mean, your top 5, if you do in town, any of these things, does it matter?
I think so. Yeah, it's good to get an idea of what everyone's doing and what they want to keep doing.
I think
Right.
it kind of gives the emphasis of where we might want to be
Yeah,
concentrating our,
focus on-
yeah, exactly.
Well, I can see where that might be a problem for Cassie, then if you have to grade it with 1 through 5.
No, I don't think it's grading 1 through
Yeah.
5. You'd have your top 5.
Yeah.
And then you would say, what do you need to travel outside of town to
Okay,
do?
yeah.
And then do we want another column that says, don't do anything? Don't do any of these. I think if you don't click them, you're obviously don't do any of them. So I guess
Right.
I don't think we need that extra
Yeah, only-
burden on
Only
people.
click those that apply.
Yeah. Yeah.
Moving on,
Yes.
number 14. I'd rather see it be a multiple choice as opposed to somebody answering. I mean, what are they gonna answer in that box? If they want what? They want wheelchair access, they want handicap facilities, they want
Number
Braille.
13.
I just think
14.
you should have choices, multiple choices there.
You mean 13?
I think you mean
No,
13.
14. Unless I've got a different page than you guys. Are you seeking the town, are you leaving the town to seek out
13,
handicap
13.
accessible
Yeah, that's
facilities?
13.
I just think,
Instead of a write-in, just have a.
yeah, first of all, write-ins, I just don't like write-ins. I tend not to do write-ins on any kind of survey I'm doing.
I think the number of people that would actually be responding to this question are probably relatively few. I'm not sure how many people are actually leaving town or have the need for handicap facilities. And it might make sense to be very specific in this particular question, because we're going to want to know where's our specific gap? What do we not have here that people,
Right, like we don't
are
have a
leaving
Braille trail like they do in Dennis.
we have a rail trail.
Braille.
Braille?
Braille,
Oh,
Braille,
yeah, perfect.
okay? So I'm just saying, and this would be more in your department, but what facilities do we need to make everything accessible? I was thinking wheelchair access, yes. You want to make sure the bathrooms are
ADA.
accessible, yeah. And you wanna, if you're sight impaired, you'd like some kind of touching thing to find out where the heck you are and what you're doing.
So if you're
But
saying
there
you're
are other-
something in
there-
the survey.
There are other needs that are not seen, and I guess I'm hesitant to put in prescribed items here. I'd rather people provide what they feel that they need and not us tell them what they need. in this case.
Having to go through 100 page of comments on the second vision plan, people do fill in the other. Just saying, it was a bit crazy. So I think there are, even though some people may not just want to click, click, click and be done, there's a lot of people who will be filling in. And I think that it gets more complicated for you guys in reviewing and us in reviewing the responses if there's too many write-ins, because the Survey Monkey's nice. It's very easy answers and you can kind of see where you go. But the write-ins, you have to put a little more effort into. So keeping those to somewhat of a minimum makes sense. But I think this one, I agree with Cassie. I think it makes sense to just leave it as a write-in.
Just touching on what Brittany just said, how are we gonna make this available to the sight impaired?
I have no idea how to do that.
Well, let's think about that.
I believe you can, like, it is compatible with programs that folks can use to be able to read this format with, like through their computer.
Okay,
I've never had that concern before actually on online survey, especially Survey Monkey, which is so pervasive and used throughout all these types of planning efforts. I think it's like, I don't know what the program is, but if you use a computer and you are seeing impaired, then you have the ability to read web
Transcribe,
pages.
Yeah,
That's true.
yeah.
I realize it's a small percentage, but nonetheless.
Right, exactly.
Well, I think what she's saying is if you are impaired, you have the ability through
Yeah.
technology in your own home to like have it translated for you. That
Yeah.
makes some sense.
It's like the phones that you
Yeah,
used to.
right, right. Okay. What else you got?
Moving on to 16. I don't like no improvements at the top of the list. I don't like unsure, don't know at the top of the list. I'd like to see at the top of the list, indoor facilities.
What number are you on?
I'm on my original printout, so you must have a new
You have a
printout.
packet. The packet
Yeah, I
is
know.
the current one. Sorry. So that's probably why, I'm sorry. I get what's happening.
15, he's on 15.
That's on 15
Yeah,
then?
yeah.
So, yeah, I'm just gonna stay there,
Yeah, no, that
as long
makes,
as everybody understands.
Yeah.
so moving those to the bottom
So,
instead of
yeah,
it being.
put those on the
Yeah,
bottom. No
That makes
improvements and
sense.
unsure, don't know,
Yeah,
on the
it's-
bottom.
yeah,
Yeah,
agreed.
because that's an easy out for them to just check off.
Yeah.
up to the
Yeah.
next.
Good point.
Maintenance reservations, I'd say put that down towards the bottom. And up top, I'd like to see, indoor facilities.
Where's indoor?
Like
It's not there, I don't think.
what type of indoor?
Also. Also, the heading that says team sports facilities, baseball, football, soccer, other. I'm not sure, I guess team sports makes sense, but I would say multi-use facilities, baseball, football, soccer, lacrosse,
So just multi-use facilities and multi-use court facilities?
right, and
Okay.
court facilities, the same thing, you'd want to put basketball, handball, and there's no pickleball there.
We definitely need pickleball, right, Will?
No comment, but we love pickleball. I'll say that for the record.
So and you wanted to move maintenance down lower? Is that the other comment you had?
That shouldn't be a high priority or a high thing you run into right off the beginning.
From the vision plan?
It could be though.
It was very high.
I think.
Maintenance
it
was
should
very
be
high.
Because some of the facilities that I'm involved with definitely need maintenance and they have to give out contracts in order to come in. And instead of doing a minimalist job, it should have been a major job, you know. So we need to push the budget, to inform the town
Okay,
that some of these passive parks, not the they take care of the recreational parks, but the passive parks are not
Right.
being taken care of in the
Yeah.
same way.
And nobody wants to go to a park that has.
It doesn't look
Yeah.
nice, yeah.
But
I
even,
got you.
even some of the recreational parks, that
Could
could be
use some.
someone's high
Yeah.
priority is for maintenance on them,
Okay.
you know, so.
So maybe we'll leave the maintenance where it is, Cassie, and then do we want to move the reservations and permitting policies down? Does that look good?
Yeah.
Just made some edit. nice
Sure,
edits
and then
there.
the comment about indoor facilities, what's in your mind's eye? Like, are we thinking open conference space, like classroom space, senior center,
Like a
indoor
community
seating,
center?
indoor active rec, like basketball courts with when you say indoor facilities, that's very broad.
These are improvements to existing town parks, recreation and open space, not necessarily something new. So is it like the number of indoor basketball and that kind of stuff? Is that what you're thinking, Steve?
Well, again, we might have a numbering problem there, but I'd like to see somewhere on there the fact that people would like to say, we need a indoor recreation area. We
But
need,
this is asking about improvements, not necessarily,
So I think 16 is where you.
so,
Yeah.
yeah, that might
have
be
that, or
the next
your
one there.
number.
Yeah,
yeah. Thank you, Amy. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So maybe not, but I mean, we do have, I mean, is there a need for other indoor courts? And we say courts, but we don't say indoor or outdoor. I guess people will clarify that. I know I'm saying back on 15 with the multi-use facilities, obviously not indoor football, but basketball.
Yeah, I guess you should specify outdoor for those.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, because someone could
Things
see,
talking about it like. a
yeah, and be like,
basketball.
oh, I want this,
I want
yeah,
a sports ball
exactly,
too.
yeah.
Yeah, and even soccer. I mean, I know that there's that whole concept of those sporting complexes and
Oh,
stuff.
yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Is that good, Steve?
Yep.
Makes sense? Okay. So what additional activities would we like to?
Yeah, I mean, so 16 is where you pretty much want community center listed on there, right?
I guess you should also specify if the aquatic facility in 16 would be indoor or outdoor.
Very different.
Yeah.
Well, maybe, do we want to ask outright, is the community looking for an indoor pool? I mean, we always say in community center / indoor pool, because I kind of like are thinking that those may go together, but they may not. They may
Yeah.
be two separate things.
Yeah.
So do we want outdoor aquatic facilities and then in community center and indoor pool? As two separate items?
Something like that would be
Yeah.
very interesting because
It came up in the visioning, so I think we need to ask the question in ours and get a little bit more solid on the answer to that.
well, there's the CPA has an article before this year for the Riverwalk. Now with the Riverwalk, currently $3 million is coming out of CPA currently, and there'll be a $3 million bond floated. Once that bond is floated, funds are going to be tight for the next 10 years. So when you're talking about something like an indoor pool,
Oh, it
It's
would
gonna
be
be
beyond
difficult.
CPA, yeah.
to get something like that for the next 10 years, the funds
We
are
have-
going to be limited.
We have sewers, we have a library that's much further along, so I don't necessarily think that a community center would happen overnight.
Yeah.
But it should even be on our radar screen, and maybe that's what this will help
Well,
us.
people, you want to know what people think.
Yeah, yeah.
But they also have to understand that it's not going to happen
Oh,
today,
yeah,
tomorrow.
yeah.
Yeah.
Well, nothing happens
Well, I'm
tomorrow.
thinking of
municipal
Mattakees
government.
property. That's what
Yep,
I'm thinking.
yep.
So,
Yeah, the Mattakees reuse, the old middle school, that's an opportunity for a wide variety of things, so, yeah. So we're gonna add outdoor aquatic facility, so we'll say outdoor to that, and then we're gonna add two separate indoor pool and community center. As two separate, does that make sense?
Yeah.
I
Okay,
just have one more comment. I think everywhere where disc golf / ultimate frisbee are listed, they should be two separate items. Or ultimate frisbee can be grouped in with the other rectangular multi-use field,
Absolutely.
but disc golf
They're
requires
not the same
completely
thing at all.
different facilities. And ultimate just needs an open field.
But then when you talk about the community center, if a new library gets proposed, that might have the rooms that would be used for meetings and things. So you have different proposals coming up that might have served different purposes.
right, but I don't,
This would be
this isn't,
recreation
right, not
focused.
meeting
Yeah.
rooms, yeah. This would be more like, right,
Yeah.
indoor basketball. Although, like the beautiful community center they have in Harwich, that does have a really nice meeting room
I
that
do
people
too. I
use
see
as
it
well.
right on.
But it would kind of end up being combined. Yeah, you can't just have one thing. I think the multiple, right, yeah. You gotta get as many bangs for your buck as you can, so.
Well, that's the Frisbee pro over there, so she knows what she's talking about.
So with regard to that, we would be separating them out, or did you think one of them could be added to the most?
Yeah, for everywhere else in the questionnaire, they should be separate. But for this list, ultimate can be grouped in with rectangular multi-use fields, and disc golf should stay its own.
Okay, so eliminate ultimate frisbee here and leave disc golf, which I don't
And
know the
put
difference.
ultimate Frisbee up in the rectangular multi-use fields.
Yeah, and that's where
Okay.
that's
Yep,
where it's
that's
in the
where
first
it's
place,
gotta
so, yeah.
Are we saying it or we're gonna show it? Are we just like multi-use fields would include that?
It would include it, just
Yeah.
like soccer,
Yeah.
like,
Yeah,
you
just
know,
like-
lacrosse, I mean, you don't have that
Listed out.
because it's going into the rectangular multi-use fields, so.
Do we want a parentheses what the rectangular multi-use fields includes? I think you've done that
would cover a
before.
lot, that
I
would
don't think
cover
we
an
need
awful
to.
lot. Cause you got soccer, lacrosse, football,
Ultimate Frisbee.
ultimate Frisbee,
Field hockey
field hockey.
goes on and on.
Okay, so most people know that. So do we need to include it or will people understand that? I think most people, if
Yeah.
they're using
I
it,
think you
understand.
need to include
Yeah,
it,
I
so.
don't need
I
it.
mean, if
Perfect.
anything, if someone doesn't think you are, they'll write it in the other,
Yeah,
so.
Okay,
I'd like to
excellent.
know where sledding is.
Oh, at the golf course, Bass River
Oh, I
Lane.
know. Well, Bass River, they allow that?
I've seen people.
Well, I've seen them
on it.
sledding everywhere, but I don't think. they-
That and
I don't think-
Bayberry, there's a
Bayberry,
driving range.
oh, I know
in
there's
Bayberry.
I don't think they chase people off.
No,
I
they
mean,
don't.
Exactly.
yeah,
Okay.
as long as they're not actively
Well,
golfing through.
I was chased off of Bayberry because they were ruining the place.
Oh, really? Oh.
Mm.
Mm.
You're ruining the grass.
I guess it
Well,
depends on how
you
much
have
snow is out
grassy-
there.
Right.
Oh, there was a lot.
Yeah, so you're not ruining anything. What else you got there, Steve?
Number 18, instead of a yes, no, other, please specify. How about a strongly agree, disagree, don't care,
Yeah, that makes sense.
little buttons?
So strongly agree to strongly disagree, whatever that range is.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I'm gonna relate yours to mine. Must be 19, I've got old 23, which is probably your
What's the question?
maybe 19. How do you feel about the following
Yeah.
statements?
19.
yeah.
I know this is gonna seem kind of partial, but I'd like to see provide more year-round recreational facilities, community center, indoor pool, more at the top of the list. Rather than buried down at the bottom. It's self-serving, I know.
Your humble opinion.
Mm. And then the next one with the, please indicate how you rate these goals. I'm not sure why anyone would put any of the goals other than very important. I suppose. But I mean, reading down the list. I don't know. I'm not sure why anybody would put anything but very important.
Some people may feel that we have adequate open space and conservation land and not be interested in expanding it. You're gonna find that you're gonna be a lot of people like, we need a lot more, and there's gonna be people, we got plenty, we don't need any more.
Okay,
But you're right, probably a lot of these are going to be, because they're all positive things. in
Yeah, I just
general.
don't know what information you're gonna glean from that, but
Mm.
it's possible.
Should they be worded any differently?
I'm tired of hearing myself talk. On the one, how did you hear about this survey? I'd rather see choices listed like email, social media, mailing. Because I mean, right off the bat, when I said, how do you hear about the survey? I'm wondering, well, yeah, I got it, sent to me by email, I guess. But how is everybody else gonna get it?
Well, that's,
And I know we got a whole thing going on about
Mhm,
how that's gonna go out there, but
mhm.
again, that's filling in a box with an answer. And I mean, what are
I
their
just
choices
wanna
gonna
talk
be?
about that. How are we getting how are we disseminating this?
Oh,
Okay.
I just want to interrupt. I would like to talk about that after we finish the actual editing the survey, so that we respectfully just want to stay on, because we're already at 34 minutes.
Yep.
And we do have a lot to cover. Sorry, Cass. I just, for your benefit also, I just want to finish the survey and then we can talk about the other bits. Thank you.
Cassie, I think you had it in the previous survey, an actual list. And then we also had a list that I can send you from our vision survey, that kind of mirrored our publicity plan. So we can work on this. If everyone wants to add choices, we can come up with the choices.
And you kind of got it listed on in number 26, your number 26.
Oh, there you go.
And the only thing I did want to correct on that is on the recreation listserv. I don't know if anybody's been there, but I've tried it. And there's basically diddly squat available for recreation, except cancellations, goods and services. And then there's a category for parks, rec, and cemetery. But I don't think there's a thing there for listing the recreational events or stuff like that. But in the listserv, you don't have a choice to really get recreation by itself, except for cancellations. So that one, I'd also question whether you want to separate phone call from voicemail text. A text is different than a voicemail text. And a lot of the information does come out by text,
see.
but it wouldn't come out by voicemail text.
How about if you put a slash between voicemail and text, like you do phone call?
Yeah. You'd have to wonder though, do you want a phone call telling you about stuff from?
It would be the code red. I mean,
Yeah.
I did that for visioning. I
Yeah.
sent out a little thing when we were having our survey, letting people know and how to access it. We've been trying to limit it to really
Yeah.
important things. I don't know whether
Right.
we would do it necessarily for this. Because we don't want to abuse it, but people have signed up to have that code red stuff.
Yeah. Well, maybe a slash between voicemail and text, and I don't know. I personally would not want a phone call. And number 27, what neighborhood do you reside in? I don't think Bass River. If people answered Bass River, I think it would throw everything into a loop-de-loop. I mean. a lot
I
of
would say
people-
Captain's Village is what I would say. So are you talking about one of the three, like
No,
West
one of the
Yarmouth, South?
towns, I would assume. well,
Neighborhood,
maybe-
it says neighborhood,
Right,
what
Well,
neighborhood?
right. But is the question we're really looking for is West Yarmouth, South Yarmouth, Yarmouthport? Or are we looking for your individual,
Englewood.
right?
Captain's Village, Bass River,
Because that could,
Puckanucket.
that's very
Village.
specific.
People are gonna write that stuff though.
Yeah.
Because
Yes, oh, yeah.
They're like.
And then you're sitting there
you know,
going,
so.
Where is
village?
that?
I never heard
Yeah.
of that.
So-
Do you
so-
know where Puckanucket Village
Doesn't
is?
village keep us consistent with earlier in the survey where we
Yeah,
Yeah,
mentioned villages? I would advocate for village, please.
So what village do you live in? And then just have the boxes, South Yarmouth,
Yeah.
West Yarmouth, the Yarmouth board.
Three buttons, one choice.
So what village do you live in? And then the three. Trust me, I think you guys will be happier, Cassie and Lauren, if that's not a write-in.
Yeah, because, yeah, they'll look at that going.
Where, and we'll.
We
we'll scratch
anticipate
my- I know
that
I'll scratch
folks-
my head a few times.
All right, number 28.
Hold on one second, please, Steve. Cassie has a question.
Do we anticipate that folks like staff or folks outside of Yarmouth would be answering? And do we want to say like, I don't live here, or I'm a town employee or something like that?
I think there's probably don't live in town is probably the other option. So
Okay.
that's a
Agreed.
good point.
Good point, Cassie. I agree. There should be a fourth one for that.
Do not reside in Yarmouth.
Yeah.
Okay, Steve, thank you. Please go ahead.
So number 28, how do you answer? I do not live in Yarmouth. How do you, which box do you check off?
Where's 21?
How long?
Oh, how long?
It should just be one box. I think you had one box before.
Or you can just add to the question, if you don't leave in Yarmouth,
Go to the next one.
skip this.
Or if you live in Yarmouth, yeah.
Yeah,
If you live in
Okay, so you're
Yarmouth,
gonna
how
get that
long?
answer in
If you live in
27,
Yarmouth, how
so-
long?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, right. Perfect. That looks good.
Number 29, I hate to be critical, but this bar graph thing from 0 to 20, but then a little box on the end. How many people live in your household? Is the bar graph necessary? Just a simple box with a number in it? I mean, I'm looking to see, am I supposed to take and put a line somewhere on that bar graph and answer 2 or?
How does the bar graph work in Survey Monkey, Cassie? Can you move it to the number that you want and then it works?
you're muted.
You're muted.
I think she's just gonna take it out, which makes way more sense, and then we can move on.
Just take it out.
Yeah,
It's
just
a
put
good
it in
point.
It's just gonna be
Noted.
less automated. I think if, my question is if you did it in Survey Monkey, is it automated and it will provide you with the information versus them having to go through manually if it's a write-in and figure it out?
We'll test it and we'll keep the bar graph. We'll choose one to allow
Okay.
us to be more automated. We're on the last 2 questions.
Good, I'm happy.
Okay, thank you, Steve, for your thorough comments. Kath, what's the next part of this discussion about the survey? Because Cassie brought up some, and everyone has brought up, the how we're gonna tell people part. Is that the most relevant and urgent and important thing to talk about next?
Yes, I think so.
Okay, let's do it.
I think we're gonna follow kind of the same publicity that we use for getting the word out on other surveys. We're gonna have it advertised on the town website. We're gonna go through the social media. We'll have a press release that will go to the newspapers and to the radio. We'll work up a flyer. I don't know if you guys were gonna help work up a flyer or not, Cassie. But that's something that we then distribute to the libraries, the senior center. We leave it here at town hall. And typically what I've been doing is giving a certain number to the committees. And then they go out and disseminate and post in places around maybe the neighborhoods that they live in, making sure we're hitting the post office and the Chamber of Commerce and these other places. I know somebody who works really close to the chamber offices. And then
I'm just sharing a list of like typical
yeah, great.
ways to get the word out that
Yep.
you
The bus
probably have
stations were,
covered.
those were really good. We used those recently when we had a meeting on the Riverwalk Park to help get the word out. Yeah, exactly. This is great. Yeah, maybe you can send this along as well. And exactly, we have a whole bunch of very active committees and boards. We always notify them and we get a lot of participation that way. We also have a list of different organizations in town. Obviously, like the big one is the Chamber of Commerce, and they help disseminate it. And then we also have a list of a bunch of different civic and neighborhood organizations that we've gotten the word out to. The school's been very kind to us also in shooting out a text or some information to their fairly large list. Typically what we do is they'll send out a text message for us with the link to the town website where they can get the flyer or that kind of information.
So you can send the flyer through their backpack program too, which is like digital.
Oh, yeah.
It's what we do for our like brochures and stuff.
Through Backpack?
Yeah.
It's like their digital, they send it out digitally to all their students, basically. It's like St. Pius, like all those. I can give you the contacts. You
Okay.
just send it, they approve the flyer, and then they include it and they send it to their whole.
Instead of
Cool.
putting it in their backpack and having it.
Yeah.
Left there.
They
for
used
the
to,
next
yeah,
4
back in the
months.
day, it was you had to print out 5,000.
Yeah, it's digital. It's just
But-
called Backpack. It's
Yeah.
digital.
Yeah,
Yeah.
they've done that for us before too. And they're even if we send like a little simple word one, they'll translate it
Yeah.
too and send it out in different languages. So
In the
that,
sporting clubs, all the soccer, football.
I don't-
basketball.
yeah, I don't know those, so I don't
Get
know
you
whether.
the contacts, yeah.
Kathy, that just brought up a good point about translation. So we do have some in-house ability to translate into Spanish, and I think we have 12 languages that we can cover, but if there are very specific languages that need to be covered.
Portuguese.
Something.
Portuguese would be the one would be the only one not the only one, but I think the major non-English speaking language.
So just Portuguese and not any others?
Well, what are you proposing? Is this for at the public meeting or is this at
I think there should be a link at the top of the survey that says if you would,
Oh,
in that
perfect.
language, if you would
Yeah.
like to take this survey in this language. go
Spanish and Portuguese. I think
Yes.
Is what we're saying.
Agreed. I'm sorry, I thought you were talking about like maybe needing a translator of some sort. I think Portuguese would be the big, but we did that as well in the survey the survey we did for the visioning. But the problem is then you need to get the word out to that community. And I'm not sure, maybe Mary Wagon might have some ideas for getting the word out to the the Brazilian and the minority communities in town. I think that's why we do have a large environmental justice areas in town, kind of more, I think more in West Yarmouth. And that's why I like having the flyers. Maybe we can get a flyer or something like that in multiple languages, Cassie, because then we can post those there's a couple bus shelters. So we can post them there.
Sure. And you don't have those services in-house. I'm just asking the question because we
No.
do have that. I think we have one person in our company that speaks Portuguese. So I just don't want to delay it if there's an easier way to get it translated.
No, we don't.
Okay.
We have someone who can verbally do Portuguese down in the building department, but she can't translate into writing.
It always gets messed up anyways.
Well, I did the Google Translate for the one for the survey, for the visioning, so it was fun.
Is there any other discussion?
Line item by line item. Can
Sorry,
you,
any other discussion about how to get the word out?
Cassie, can you send me the list that you have? That looked great.
That's included
It's in the memo.
back of the Word
Okay.
document. that
Yeah,
I
I couldn't print out the
Oh,
memo.
wait, it's page 5. That's why, Kath.
Okay. I only got the first page and then it
That's all right.
crapped out.
It is all there.
And that,
Any more discussion about survey publicity? Okay. Do you want to talk about site visits or are we still on survey? Is there anything else about the survey that we need to talk about right now?
I think we're
I
good.
think we're good.
I think, I'm
So,
assuming Cassie will make an edit and then she'll send it around. I'll look at it and then if I think it's good, I'll just quickly send it out to everybody. And if anybody has any specific comments, get right back to me and hopefully we can start launching it next week.
Yes, I'd say respectfully, can we please put a deadline on committee comments? So that we're obviously not going to wait 2 more weeks.
No,
So if in your email, Kathy, could you just make it clear? I need to hear from everybody by X and hopefully X is a very short amount of time. Thank you.
I would say the 17th. I think originally we said that's next Tuesday.
Mhm.
I think originally we said the 18th. If we want to make a flyer and get it translated, I'm not sure we're gonna make it by next Wednesday.
Okay,
So I'll have to update you, but our hope is we'll just get it out as quickly as possible.
Right.
sounds good.
Okay, anything else about the survey? Okay, Kathy, would you like to go to schedule and evaluation forms for the site visits, or?
Yep.
Is that, okay,
Yep, yep.
let's do it.
Okay, so Lauren is gonna walk through our site visit schedule and form, so she'll be sharing screen.
I have a comment on the accessibility assessment form. There's a trail amenities area where it says, is there signage for the visually impaired? There's three things with the signage. There's usually a kiosk when you enter a conservation area. But once you get in there, there are no signs telling you go left, right, center for the bugs, or this, or that. Raymond Sorelli, I got lost, you know. So.
Calorie
perhaps
darling.
we could have, is there signage along?
Oh, I know it now, but I didn't.
Is there signage along the trails?
Yeah.
And then is there signage for visually impaired? You know, usually there is a sign that, you know, Kia from the beginning, but if you don't print out the map from the website, and if you don't look at the kiosk, you get lost, you know. So I think it's important to have just little primitive signs
Yeah.
along the trails.
There's
Well,
some grant
of them-
funding. that's
Some of them
fun.
got marked with little discs that give you, it's a specific color for the orange trail with an arrow, or
Yeah,
a colored
this-
blue trail. And we
this-
had a AmeriCorps person go out and do a number of our trails about 4 or 5 years ago. Although he didn't do all the trails, he did the major trails, because we had dirt bikes making different trails and people were getting lost. So maybe we can do it that way, because it's definitely, it's a disc up high, so nobody can take it off.
That would, you
And
know,
it just shows you.
QR
which way.
code up there,
Yeah.
kiosk, the person would load it on their phone.
Yeah.
The map.
I think
A lot
that's,
of them don't have kiosks.
I think that's something that would probably be a goal of the open space and rec plan, is to provide additional signage and directional signage within our open space areas.
When I say a kiosk, I'm just talking about just a simple little post in the ground with a little thing on the top of it.
Yeah, that'll do it. Like they have for identifying leaves and trees
Yeah.
and stuff like that.
Yeah. So maybe Lauren can kind of go through the plan here.
Okay, so we have a couple of maps showing our plan for the site visits. We'll be visiting the site Tuesday, starting at noon. And on that day, we'll be looking at all of the active recreation sites. So this shows the order in which we will be visiting those. And then day 2, we will be visiting the remaining sites. And our plan is to be out there the following Tuesday.
So maybe,
Suppose anybody else can't hear her, what she's.
yeah, you're a little hard to
Basic.
hear.
Coming through very bassy for some reason.
Can you hear me better now?
It's a little better. Try it again.
Try to talk a little louder. Is that any better?
Yeah, it echoes a little.
Yeah, it's a little strange, but
Huh.
on day 1, which is going to be the 17th, if people want to participate in that, should they meet you? I mean, the Yarmouth Port Playground doesn't at noon. I mean, how is that? How did you want to
So
work?
That's the first site that we're going to, that's where we'll meet at noon. Is Yarmouth
Starts
Port.
at
Then
noon?
we'll go to the second
First and then go
spot
on.
and the third and fourth and fifth.
Did you want to suggest a different?
I was just thinking that meeting at Flax Pond and then using that as number 1 and then going through your playground, Homer Park, Sandy Pond, and because that's more of a direct route than backtracking. Just from site visits that I try and do.
Is Flax Pond open now? I mean, the gates open and everything?
Driving around, yeah.
So did,
I'm confused.
It's just-
I'm not sure why the proposed why that's backtracking. It doesn't look like backtracking from what I can tell. It
Well,
starts at Yarmouthport and moves southeast and then it moves southwest.
Let's stick to the, let's stick to the plan.
Right? Yeah.
Well,
Starting
it's
at
just
noon?
around, you start here and go that way, but
And so we're
however it
meeting-
works.
let's just meet at noon. Whoever
Yep.
is interested in going, meet at noon. At the
playgrounds.
at Playground and Union and 6A. I think everyone knows where that is. I'm assuming there's like street parking there for
It's not many.
not many.
Well,
Yeah.
the playground has limited parking.
Yeah, that's.
Who's going to be going? All right, so we have 1 million people going. So we have Brittany, Christine, Ellie, Amy.
I think Bill Benetti wanted to go too.
Yeah,
Yeah. Is Bill gonna go to this day though?
I thought he wanted to go to the other day.
Oh, he'll probably go the other
I
one.
don't think
Yeah.
he'll go to this day, there's no.
Yeah.
And I'm sorry, Steve, were you interested? No. Okay, so it's really Brittany, Christine, Ellie, and Amy, and then the guys from Weston Sampson, whoever's going to be going on day one. Who are you guys going to have on day one?
Lauren and I are doing all the site visits.
Okay,
So
perfect.
I would just, we have a lot to cover in the site visits. We're doing an accessibility assessment and looking at the sites as a whole and going through the forms. So it's like, we're not gonna linger, we're gonna work through each checklist and make sure that we don't want to have to come out multiple times to fill out these forms. So just keep that in mind, that it's gonna be boots on the ground. We're gonna be assessing things, and it's, we'd love to have people, but it's gonna be an assessment process for each of these
No more
sites.
than 5-car parking though, isn't there? I mean, do you remember off the top of your head? It's like only 5 cars.
Yeah.
It's like the most.
It's close to that, yeah.
well,
It'll be what it'll be.
I think what Cassie's trying to say is they're going to need to really be concentrating. They're going to need to be moving quickly through these. And there's not.
Right.
Yeah, it looks like it'll probably be for them.
We struggled to find days that worked for us, and so crunching this in 5 sites into a half day might not
Hard.
even be possible, honestly. So we might have to spill over into another day. I think we'll keep the day 2 to the list, and then if we have to go back to the day 1 sites at a later date, then we'll do that. And we're trying to get in before the snow flies, all these things. So we just want to be most efficient with the time that we have out there.
Yep.
Mhm.
Okay. So day 1, noon at Route 6A playground.
So how long do you think, some of these things are a quick check off? You think it would be probably about 45 minutes at each site is what you're thinking to do a thorough?
That's our hope. Yeah, so we don't want to have lingering conversations at the site. We'd like,
Right.
to hear your comments and things and see them with you, of course, and that's helpful. But we're also wanting to get through these lengthy checklists, especially the ADA checklist is quite intensive.
Yeah, I'm also thinking that with us there, we can also help you check off because we know what facilities are there without
Exactly
having to go
right.
around the whole place.
Exactly.
We might be able to streamline this a little quicker for you.
Great, thank you.
Mondays, it's Wednesday, they might snow 50%.
on Tuesday.
Tuesday is okay.
May we talk about day 2 now, please?
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yes, so here is our plan for day 2. So similarly, showing the order in which we plan to visit the sites. And this we plan to visit on the following Tuesday.
The 24th.
I believe it's the 23rd,
Third.
or sorry, yeah,
23rd is a Monday.
That's Monday.
following Monday.
Okay.
The following Monday, so that's
Yeah.
the 23rd.
What time is that one starting?
I believe that's 9 a.m.
What time?
9 a.m.
9 a.m.
at Grays Beach. Who's interested in going on day 2?
Well, I'll go to day 2.
Yeah,
Ellie,
I'll be
Christ-
there.
But I have to leave. I have a noon dentist appointment and then I'll catch up again.
and Brittany. Okay.
I'll need somebody's telephone number to find out where are you.
Do you have a
going
work
next.
cell?
I do.
Yeah, she has a work cell.
I have, I'll send you a text from my work cell. I
Okay,
don't
so
know if it's
Ellie,
downstairs.
Christine and Brittany will be going in second day with Lauren and Cassie. And we're meeting at 9 a.m. at Grays Beach
And
on
probably
Monday,
Bill Benetti.
the
Probably
23rd. Oh, yeah,
Bill
probably Bill Benetti. Yeah. Great.
Okay.
Yeah, I think he's back. Sure. Okay. So I think that makes sense. I don't know if anyone has any comments on the forms. I think the key, they got a lot of good forms that they use, but also that facility inventory, that's directly from the workbook
Mhm.
for the open space and rec plan from DCR. So we need to make sure that we're hitting all of those things. There's obviously going to be facilities that we're not visiting, and we already have these printed out from 18. We might want to do a quick confirmation on that. But we won't be going and visiting and refilling these out, but we want them to look the same.
Mhm.
So I didn't have any comments. Looks good to everybody?
Yep.
Mhm.
All right. Is it time to talk about the public meeting?
I think so. Just as a quick aside, while they're pulling that up, there are some additional comments, the open space and rec comments Brittany provided to Weston and Sampson that they'll be incorporating, and also an overview of the golf courses that I received
Mhm.
from Scott Gilmore, just for your information.
Great. Okay. All right, on the public meeting. So the public meeting is planned for February 8th. And the long story short is, I think this would be a great opportunity to have an open house, and I'll go through why. So the first things we want to think about in terms of goals and metrics are, what are our goals for outreach? What demographics do we want to reach? Geography, interests, and do we, how are we reaching sports leagues, residents, all those things that we've just talked about. How do we know that we will be successful, and what have been some successful outreach efforts in the past? And so this is just a helpful guide that you can take at your leisure to go through and think about what those specific groups are and what comments you might have on what's been successful in the past, I think would be most helpful to us. We can talk about it now, and we can share our experience and then go from there. What we found in outreach methods is that we like to go to stakeholders and get people moving. So the traditional public meeting with the podium and speaking to slides isn't always the most successful. We want to engage people and make sure that they're feeling like they're being heard and listened to, get to their level. Of course, we just talked about translation services, so we can think about who we want, if we want Portuguese and Spanish translators to be at this meeting. We want to ensure that we have ADA accessibility to and from the meeting. So think about location that's appropriate, that provides that. And it is also a location that has easy access to public transportation.
Yep. Town hall meets all of those. So
Great. So there's 3 types of outreach strategies that we've found are most successful within that framework. We have a roadshow option that brings a presentation or provides a feedback opportunity within an existing meeting. So like if there's a Council of Aging meeting and we want to say, give a brief on what's going on or status update on the project, we could do that. I don't think that's appropriate for this particular meeting, but just offering that down the line, there might be an opportunity to say, okay, we're at a point in the project where we want to share out what's going on to a particular group. We've also had success doing a tabling at existing events, community events and things. This is an example of a outreach event that we did recently where we were just a tent or a table within a larger event. So there's some things going on coming up, just started to do a quick search, but this one is too soon, of course, but I'm sure many events. There's many events coming up where we can have a table and pass out cards and get some quick feedback from people. And we really want the touch point on this particular event to be inside of a minute, like they're voting with chips, or they're offering one thought, so people can move through this space very quickly. And then the third is what I'd suggest for this meeting, a dedicated open house. And so this looks like a time period at the beginning of the meeting where we have sign-in registration and people can mill about a series of topical stations and talk with people who are involved. Our ad hoc committee hopefully would be able to be docents at each table that's of interest to them and be able to talk one-on-one with people. And then we would have a middle period to this meeting that goes through a series of slides to introduce the project, talk about what we've heard and seen so far, what our observations are on site, that sort of thing. And then we'd open it back up for an open house where people can either take off if they need to, or continue to go to these topical stations where they can direct their comments in a particular way that they feel passionate about. And this is an example that we've done on another project where there's really an opportunity to have different kinds of feedback here. So you can have mapping that's up and people can pin in their favorite location in town. You can have post-it notes. We can have visual preference, which means like, what are the kinds of programming that you like? You can have pictures of different activities, that sort of thing. Or we can have individual write-in cards. So if you don't want to share your thoughts with a person, you can just write it in and put it into a private box. So there's really a range of opportunities to provide feedback in this format. And then this is the voting jars I just mentioned. We found incredible success with this type of engagement where we give people, it's really active. So we give people chips, and we had in this case a bunch of different kinds of activities, and they can have 10 chips, say, and they vote their weight. Like if they really want a community center, they can drop all their 10 chips in that one, or they can spread it across many different options. And so that's been helpful to also, visually see how people are voting. People love to see what other people are saying. So that's a great way and a fun way to do that. And we talked about ways to get the word out. So I'll just switch over, and I'm almost done talking. So I talked about the format a little bit. This is a breakdown. We can talk about times, and maybe we'll send this out. Kathy will send this out, and then we can make sure we have the right mix of time and breakdown and everything. So one thing that we'd love to talk about is what these topical stations could be. Like, what are the topics that make the most sense and the kind of feedback that we want to get? We just started to fill in the blanks here. So we're thinking about recreational needs and programming, conservation lands and trails, current facilities and amenities, land use and environmental protection, and accessibility. And so these need to be broad enough, but different enough from each other that it's clear what you want to talk about when you go to a topical station. So that's one thing. And the second thing would be the content of the formal presentation. So we want this to be like 15 slides-ish, fairly quick, maybe 15 minutes, 20 minutes for the presentation. We have, we'll obviously include who we are, what the, who's on the committee, what the schedule is for the project, provide some initial graphs and feedback from the online survey, because we'll have had that out for 2 weeks or so. We'll have observations from our site analysis, and we have mapping underway, our GIS maps. So we'll be able to use those in both the topical stations and if anything's pertinent to include here. And then there might be some like big ideas that we want to share and get people excited about in terms of opportunities, and then really just let people know what's up next. That's just a basic framework. Then we would open up the floor for Q&A if we do want to have an actual, podium moment, and then release folks to take off or revisit the topical stations.
So I'd like to propose, thank you, Cassie, for that. I'd like to just stay big picture for a second before we dive into the details. Would you please share the agenda document on the screen for everybody? As opposed to the one that you're showing right now? Because you did a good job describing what is already in writing, and that may also help people as they're thinking this through and we're having this conversation over the next few minutes.
Sure. Which one do you want me to share?
It's sorry.
The one-page agenda.
The one-page agenda that talks
Yeah.
about what you just, that has time slots.
Is it not showing right now?
It is not.
No.
It is, that's
No.
what you're showing is the memo about format and logistics.
Okay.
I just think that would help as we have this discussion.
Yeah, I thought I had it open.
No worries.
apologize.
You were in a really good, your train had nice pace to it, and I was not going to interrupt. So before we dive into discussing the guts of what Cassie just laid out, I just want to take a temperature check. Again, big picture. Is everybody on board with this style, this type of public meeting? Or is anybody not on board? Let me say it that way, because that's an important place for us to start from before we start getting into the details. Is anybody vehemently opposed to this kind of format? Okay, good. So I just want to get that agreement just sort of as a platform to build on. Again, we have 47 minutes, and we still have a couple other things to cover. So this is important and we need to chew on it. But I think it would make sense if people could just, again, I think it would help if we started big picture. If you look at the agenda on the screen, if you just think about it in these 30-minute chunks, and if you have if you want to give some thoughts about a particular chunk, I don't know, whatever you think might be the best way to go about this, but let's just try to keep it not too much into the weeds right now, to try to look at it as a bigger discussion. Thank you.
Well, and one last thing before I go off is, so I just wanted to share that once we do decide what the topical stations would be, then the next step for us would be to decide what are the goals that we want to achieve at each station, and what questions do we want to provide as prompts to
Thank you.
people so that they're ready. And then who's going to be at each station, so the logistics. So this is an example from that other project, the image that I showed, where we went through. So this would be step 2 at the next meeting that we would decide. And then from there, Lauren and I would go through and say, all right, what do we need to accomplish all those things in terms of materials, boards, and blah, blah, blah.
So then what would you like for us to have decided by the end of this meeting, Cassie? As a
I think the topical station categories would be most helpful, and just endorsing the content for this organization for the formal presentation. And then Lauren and I will go back and fill out a draft series of goals and questions that you can comment on next time.
for the 27th.
Correct.
Got it. Okay, thank you. That was really good table setting. I appreciate that.
Can I just ask a question? Can you briefly describe kind of what you envision in each of these? Because like you have recreational needs and programming, and then current facilities and amenities. The other ones kind of make some sense, but what can you just give a real brief description of what kind of you're envisioning in each one of these 5 categories? Like,
Yeah.
have you gotten that far?
Tried to just throw some fodder out there for discussion purposes. I think recreational needs and programming in my mind is people would come to this table to talk about really what they want to see. A lot of discussion that we just had on the survey, what they want to see in Yarmouth that they currently don't have access to, what they really love about facilities, like what kinds of programming that they do love that we want to do more of. what offerings they've seen elsewhere that they want to see here, that sort of thing. And maybe that will help inform what facilities we need to provide. And then the current facilities and amenities, I guess I imagine that more to be like what's deficient within the current facilities. Like, do we need more bathrooms at certain places? Do we need more rectangular fields? We're missing pickleball, like those sorts of those, there is some overlap, but maybe that one is more focused on actual infrastructure. And the first one is more focused on programming and recreation.
That makes some sense to me to kind of to separate that out a little bit, because then you can talk about the programs you have and then ask people, do we need additional programs? And then here we have our, our recreational facilities and amenities. What do you think of those? And then what do we need to improve? And I think obviously you and programming is probably, Amy, probably a good one, but you're not going to be. So, do you have an assistant? Who's the
I do,
assistant?
yeah, Anthony, so, we'll work it out.
Okay. Yep.
Because I might still be around to help out, so.
Just to let everyone know, Amy, I'll let you.
I'm leaving, my last day will be January 27th, but I do, I have put in that I, would like to stay around and help, Anthony Bennett, who's our assistant rec director, and kind of help him through the transition, so, but unfortunately, he is currently out because they just had a baby. So, yeah, so, but yeah, so we will, we'll work it all out, and someone from recreation and the rec commission, and I'm sure will, step in and help as well, so.
Good luck.
Yeah.
Where is the open house gonna be?
I guess that's the other thing. I was assuming it's going to be here in the town hall hearing room. I booked the hearing room. I've also booked the potential to have it videotaped, but if it's going to be more of a workshopy or a gallery walk, topical stations, I don't know how beneficial that is for hybrid. And I mean, obviously the formal presentation part, and the Q&A would be, but, I guess that was my question, is how do we want this to be a hybrid, or is this an in-person only meeting? And how do you run a hybrid meeting with this type of format where so much of it is individualized?
You could portion it out and say on the flyer that the hybrid portion starts at 6:30, and you'll be able to ask questions after that presentation, and note that you'll be missing the in-person activities. It's the only way I could think of having this format, be able to do both.
Does everyone think it's
they can write in their feedback directly to Kathy to provide that in a virtual way, email in their comments. Or
well, I mean,
call.
you can have the interactive part during the meeting. I think Brittany's idea is probably, if we want to have a hybrid, that's the way you would have to do it. Just make it clear to people that you can see the presentation and be part of the Q&A, but there is a whole other separate section that's in person that you'd be missing out on. But I guess the question is do we want to do the hybrid?
I think it's important to do.
Yeah, I do too.
Yeah, I think a
So,
lot of people.
yeah.
would.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. I've got it scheduled. The guy's available, so we can do that. But I would tell him that we would start that part of the meeting, that he would start doing it at 6:30. Does that make sense?
Mhm.
Yeah.
Just the.
Okay. Okay. All right. Sounds good to me.
I have a question, Debbie. How many people do you think we can?
The number of people that come to these things can vary significantly.
I'm thinking this. How do we get them there? So maybe we could offer something. Which is kind of like weird, but I just invested in something for my own personal needs to help me with my disability, which is helping immensely.
Oh, good.
And they're ski walking poles.
Mhm.
The Nordic ones, okay, very beneficial. They don't cost a lot of money. If we could maybe urge people to come and they could put their name in a jar, and then we could give away 5 of them or something like that. I mean, the cost would be under $600, I think.
I have no idea how we can fund those types of things with the municipal.
I'll be willing to donate it. I mean, if that's, I think this is a great, format, what Cassie had said about the interaction.
Mhm,
And I think it gets people excited.
mhm,
This town needs to be like engaging, right?
mhm.
And involved. And I'm not a person that really goes out too much because of what I have as a problem, right? I
Mhm.
used to go constantly. And so I think it would be nice to get people excited about the recreations. I'm gonna be visiting them, via car, thanks walking, but it's really enlightening that you all are doing a great job, but I never really even knew anything about this stuff, really. I mean,
Yeah.
because I'm not involved in hiking and things of that nature. So I'm
Right.
just, throwing that out there, that's all.
Well, I have another question, the off on the first part of this, and you say the meeting room is the one downstairs. Is there enough room with all those participants to set up all these tables, or should we do something at the senior citizen center where you have that big forum that you can
Yeah,
work better?
Then we can't do the hybrid.
then you can't do the
Tables all
hybrid.
walk-
Yeah.
people walk.
The hybrid would be, I mean, the hybrid is very, I guess,
Yeah,
Oh,
it's very
slided?
rudimentary.
yeah.
And it's not like it is in the hearing room. I think what we would have to do is maybe be clear on how we set up the room. And maybe we'd have to work with facilities to move some stuff around, and we'd have tables. I mean, how many do we have? 5?
Yeah.
We'd have to set the tables up around the outer side of the wall. So then people kind of rotate around, and then you'd have the seating kind of in the center for that.
Again, it depends on how many people. you
It
have.
depends on how many people you have, right? Yep.
We're still under
Big
COVID
reservation or
restrictions.
something, yeah.
That's why I think the hybrid's important. I think a lot of people, they're just not comfortable, and especially things going on right now, seems to be a little bit more uptick in some places, so that would be.
So the senior center has hybrid, has a video
No.
camera, it's not,
No,
okay.
No,
didn't
I
think
no,
so.
you have to bring the handheld one, and I don't even know how you would do it. And we've done it before, I think, for like the housing summit. I think that was videotaped, but it's like terrible quality.
Yeah, I think we need to have overflow in the hallway for the tables, I think. we
That's a
should.
good point too. There's a
could
hallway
sit down
there.
that
That's a
hallway,
great
yeah, that
point.
would be a good idea.
Yeah.
And
That's a
not
good
only
point.
that, I mean, if you really need to, you could, put a table in the conference room. Be
Right,
down
you
there. I
could,
mean, you know
yeah,
what I
just
mean?
use that
Like, you
conference room
do-
B, which is right there. Yeah.
You do have some options.
Yeah,
so.
that's a good point.
Yeah.
Yeah, we do have some options to expand the space a little bit if we need to beyond the actual room itself. But Cassie, we should talk, obviously, we're going to talk all about it again at our next meeting. We can kind of figure that out a little bit. I
Is it
don't have,
possible to take dimensions of these spaces for us, and we know, like, we have size of table and we can space it out? I guess I just want to make sure 5 is the right number, like from both a topical perspective and a space allocation perspective, because it's true with COVID, we don't want to jam people into the space and not allow for people to move around. The hope is with open house that people can come in when they want and cycle through at their own pace. But I do want to make sure that with the space that we have available, maybe some photos and basic dimensions would be helpful.
we might have some floor plans from when we did some edits to the town hall. So I can see, but like I say,
I don't want
Brittany has a good idea.
to
There's space in the hall too, and then there's another conference room that's right next to the hearing room. So though that open house thing could be held not just in the hearing room, but in some other spaces as well.
Yeah, but there's that, can the video reach those other?
Well,
rooms?
this is the part of it
Just
that we're not gonna be
walk around.
videotaping,
Sorry,
right?
sorry.
Yeah, no, I hear you. I'm getting missed
Just trying to
too.
put all the pieces together in my head here.
I think that with the edits that we were talking about, with the difference between the programming and the facilities for recreation, I think personally, obviously conservation lands and trails, what would be your land use and environmental protections? What were you thinking there?
I'm muted. I threw that in there around, there was some language in the 2015 plan about redevelopment opportunities and all of the beautiful natural assets that Yarmouth, of course, has, and just providing a space for people to comment on where they want to make sure that we're not, doing anything kind of beyond conservation lands that are already deeded, but if there's any changes of land use and protection of lands that wouldn't be this kind of use.
Excellent. And then the accessibility would just be the mobility and accessibility at all of our, everything, just all encompassing.
Of course, yeah.
Okay. Okay. I think that's great.
I already have, you know what? I'm gonna come up with something, but I think for the accessibility, right? Could we like offer? If they come to our booth, they can, put their name in and somebody will get a free gift or something.
I've never done, I honestly
to
don't know the
attract-
logistics of it because
I
I've never
know.
done that before
Yeah.
to
Well, I
base
did
it.
something like that for a
Yeah.
church function and
yeah.
it doubled everything.
Well, it's a good idea, but it's also a business meeting, so, how do you?
Yeah, I guess
Combine the
kind of
two.
the
Is
it
reward
business? I
is
thought
they're
it was-
trying
I-
to get their
thought this
input
was a
in
survey
for
that,
change,
the public-
not physical.
You're basically trying to come up with ways to encourage. I mean, obviously, we've done things where we've provided snacks, to get people snacks. They're snacks, to get people to come to meetings like the CPA had food for their public hearing, as you well know. But we've never raffled something off before. But I know what you're saying. You're saying, what can we do to encourage people beyond their civic duty and interest to come out? And I don't know whether Cassie has any ideas or Lauren has any ideas on that.
It does get a little sticky with offering monetary contributions, or raffle. I personally haven't done it, but we have talked about it in other situations. Just hasn't, I think it's a great idea. I think snacks and water I would encourage us to do that. Like we can go to BJ's and get a bunch of Nutri-Grain bars, trail mix bars and pretzel bags and things like that. And that's easy. People appreciate that. It's just a little token, but it's not a huge amount of money.
Right. Yeah, that's something that we might be able to manage.
And
Yeah.
this is one last thing, I forgot, it isn't on the survey about this Nordic ski walking pole thing, because
Oh, the club,
the club,
yeah.
there's a big club in
There is.
Harwich, right? I think it's, I mean, like.
they
there's
walk all
like-
over with the poles. They
Right, there's
have a
over
club and they
1,000,
do
they
hiking
go on
all
the
over with the
trails and
poles. Yeah.
everything. The flat trail, they go on
Yeah.
the flat ones, yeah.
Oh, you can tell what pocket.
Exactly. So we should probably, I mean, we might encourage that, might be something that people would like to do, an outdoor activity for an older.
I see them on the beach. I see them on the
Yeah.
trails. They're all over the golf course. They're all over. The place.
Yeah.
It's just part of walking. They're just,
Programming, yeah.
Is
Yeah,
it
but it's
programmed?
called
Yeah,
fun,
it's a group,
minutes, and
Yeah.
that kind of, it's 45 minutes of walking,
because you're using your arms and
right? It's
Oh.
it's sort of like a physical elliptical or
Exactly.
in person
Oh.
elliptical because you're doing.
here.
Yeah.
I found that out through my PT.
Yeah.
So we started doing that, and that's becoming very popular. That's
Oh,
all
it's
I'm
very
saying.
popular.
And it's making me stand up straight, and my knee is
Yeah.
like 90% better.
Well, the poles give you the extra support that, yeah.
Exactly.
But it doesn't require an amenity to use. You're just using the existing trails,
Yeah.
correct?
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Oh, I don't know whether you really need to.
Well, no, I'm just saying the activity. a
Yeah.
recreational
Oh,
activity
yeah.
For a club.
Well, I wonder if those poles could be donated and there could be one set maybe. And
Okay,
then
I'll
we have a
donate 'em.
sign-in sheet. If
Oh,
everybody puts their name on the sign-in sheet, then we could do a raffle that way.
Yeah, I'll donate a pair.
I think we need to see whether that's appropriate
Okay.
for
Well, we
public
don't need to
meetings.
pass money. They could just put a piece of paper in
Yeah.
a.
I'd rather just do the snacks in all honesty versus trying to do it. I mean, we're gonna have a whole nother public meeting later. Maybe that's something that we can figure out a little bit more.
Not a problem.
But yeah,
And whoever gets them anyway, they can't take them home because you have to, it's your height. And so you're buying, I'll be getting a pair that would be fitting that
Right.
person who's 6 feet tall versus 5 feet tall. Okay, all right, not a problem.
Is there any more discussion on the topics listed 1 through 5 on the agenda under gallery walk and topical stations?
Nope.
Okay, how about under formal presentation?
I think that sounds great. Are you gonna flesh that out a little bit for the next meeting? Like have the actual draft of the PowerPoint, Cassie?
That's our intention.
Okay. I think it sounds like you're on the right track and now you just need to put some flesh on the bones and we'll look at it at the meeting.
Exactly
Okay.
right.
Any other discussion about this? Again, format, big picture? Anything little tiny picture that won't take us too far off track? Cassie?
One tiny note is that I don't think we should encourage, if we want to have a water station in the snack conversation. I don't want to have water bottles, just from an environmental perspective. So I wonder if
Cans?
the town has a water,
A bubbler?
yeah, something that we could use that would be more environmentally friendly.
Can we use cans instead of plastic? The recyclable. We have recycling here at the town, yeah. We have a bubbler, but it's in the upper room and I don't know if it's full of water already, how you would move it.
I mean, I have
Yeah.
a water.
It's like just a sports jug, yeah.
You just,
I have a bunch of those.
so just water jugs with plastic cups?
No. we'll pay
Or
for it.
people have to have their own water bottle?
Yeah. We could also just not have a drink and just have snacks only.
I think that's
Simple.
probably better.
Better yet.
There is a water fountain. There is a water fountain there, isn't there? Downstairs.
And there's a
Well, so there's a
bubbler in the
kitchen.
Kitchen.
There's a
Oh, I thought
kitchen.
there's not a water fountain right next to the bathrooms?
So.
No.
No, that's the defibrillator.
No, yeah, I haven't used that either.
We may need that.
Let's hope not. Okay, I thought there was a water fountain. Sorry, Cass. Guess what? That's gonna be a small challenge.
That's fine.
Okay, any more discussion? No more, because it's off the screen. I love it. Okay. At least on the agenda that we have listed here, we are on to meeting minutes and upcoming meetings, Kathy, unless I'm missing something.
No, I think you're on point.
Okay, hopefully everyone has had a chance to review the minutes from the December 16th, 2022 meeting, and I will love to entertain a motion on them.
I'll make a motion that we accept the minutes as presented.
Thank you. May I please have a second?
Second.
Thank you, Christine. Any discussion on the minutes? Don't hear any, so now we'll take a roll call vote. Steve Szanski,
Aye.
Christine Marzigliano,
Aye.
Gail Charette,
Yes.
Ellie Lawrence.
I abstain. I was not at the meeting.
Understood. Will Rubenstein, aye. Did I miss anybody?
Nope, you got it.
Okay, cool. All right, that's it for the minutes. Now, Kathy, let's talk a little bit about January 27th, and even though we already have talked about February 8th, any other things we might have missed about that date as well?
I'm really envisioning, and Cassie and Lauren can jump in, that's really just going to be, we're going to really be hitting hard and reviewing in detail the presentation and the public meeting for the 8th. And that was really like gonna kind of be a sole topic kind of meeting.
Well, and also
Creating these boards, or are they creating the boards, these topic boards?
Cassie and Lauren are doing it all.
what? Well, also perhaps is that also the time to just, for the record, discuss how the site visits went
Oh,
as
that's a
well
good point.
as an agenda topic? Doesn't have to be more than 5 to 10 minutes, but I think it should be on the agenda unless anybody objects.
Sounds good.
Yeah, so at the meeting, we'll want to make sure we're on target with our goals per topical station in questions, and then make sure we assign the right people to the right stations.
Yes.
And then we'll go over presentation, make sure we have the right content for those slides.
So will you have that information available like the Tuesday before our meeting so that I can include them in the packet so everyone has a chance to look at it?
Yes, we'll make sure we do that.
I'm sorry, I don't
Yeah,
mean to
but
push you.
not-
You
Well-
guys have a lot to do and I know it's
And-
very
right.
short and you have the survey as well. And you guys have been cranking out the volume of work and we really appreciate that.
And I also would like to allow for the fact that even despite your best efforts, given everything that's on your plate, if you can't make it into the agenda, then we will just have to chew on it live and in color on the 27th.
Yes.
Appreciate that.
You're welcome. Anything else to discuss about the 27th? No, anything that we missed about the 8th? Does anybody,
I'll make a motion.
okay. Well, I guess that's how it's gonna be. I just wanted to make sure, Steve, hang on one sec, please. Just wanted to make sure there wasn't anything else that someone wanted to bring up. Okay, thanks. Steve, please.
Hey, I'd like to make a motion that we adjourn this meeting.
Okay, do we have a second, please?
Second.
Great, thanks. Not allowing discussion, sorry. Let's take a vote. Here we go. Steve Szanski,
Aye.
Christine Marzigliano,
Aye.
Gail Charette,
Aye.
Ellie Lawrence,
Aye.
Will Rubenstein, aye. Meeting is adjourned. Thank you all very, very much.
You gonna go on? a site
Excellent.
visit?
Thank you.
All right, thank you, guys.
Thank
See you in 2
Thank
weeks.
you.
Have a great weekend.
I'll be in all of them. I have to.